Alrighty, howdy everybody. Let's turn this a little bit. I'm going to do a video on some wedges. Tim did a cotton top 3. Did a live feed the other night. We were chatting back and forth on there. I had some questions about the track cutter and thing they had. But he was asking what kind of wedges I prefer. And this is basically my go-to bag, except for this one. This was an experimental I tried. I'm not real fond of it. But I'll go through to tell you, excuse me, I'm a little sleepy. I'll go through and tell you each wedge I use and why I like to use it for all you guys. But Tim, you mentioned the hardhead. They're a great wedge. I love these wedges. When you really gotta cut in big timber, I like these because you're getting direct contact with this steel plate on them. You know, if anybody's unfamiliar with them, a hardhead wedge, this section here is all steel, obviously. And then, you know, your plastic starts with a red and yellow stops. Now, this piece of steel is actually T-shaped and has a tang that goes down into the wedge itself like this. And if I remember, that tang is like barbed or something like that. Looks like a tongue. But either way, what's going to happen with these over time, though, the only downfall with these is you're going to hit them and hit them and hit them and hit them. And sooner or later, this piece of metal will start to curl on each end, almost like this. And then it'll pop off. I mean, that doesn't stop me. I just keep using them. I beat on them until there's nothing left of them. I mean, that's just me. Let's see if hold on, I got a crappy bar here. One disadvantage of this wedge, just using this for example, say you're plunging into your tree like this, you know, to do a bore cut or something, and you have the wedge driven next to the bar. Obviously, you got to watch your saw doesn't hit that in metal, it ruins it. Whereas the other wedges, you can cut right through them, it won't hurt it. But they're heavy, but the performance is nice. They're textured on both sides. They work very good. I like them. And my go-to, just a regular old Husqvarna wedge. I use these a lot, usually in 10 or 12-inch ones. I like them, not because they're Husqvarna or anything, but just because of the density of the plastic. And I'll get into why that matters a second here, in my opinion, why I think it matters. But local shop carries them. They're easily accessible. I like supporting the local guy. Yeah, I can probably buy them on the internet cheaper, but he has a good price on them and they take care of me. So that's why I like those. There's another brand sold by me. This is the Wells. I mean, you look at them. They look exactly the same except of color. The Wells, though, has barbs on the back. And those don't last very long, but they do help. Keeps it from coming back out. I have this wedge here. These were some ones I tried. I bought these from a supplier a little bit north of me. They're very dense. And I use this one a lot. Used it a lot. And you could see it whooped on it and it didn't mushroom over. The other ones will mushroom over quite a bit. You know, and I've gone so far as cutting them off with like a little portaband or something to square them off again. Because those barbs will get hung up. Sometimes you're trying to cheat and get that last little bit into the, you know, your notch. But the only thing I don't like about these, if you get a tree that's under a lot of pressure, like it's sitting back on you, or you're trying to lift one side or do something, these ones, what they'll do is you'll start to drive them in. And you can see there's a texture on this, but the texture actually wore off because that's what happened with this one exactly. You go to beat this thing into a tree and you'll start hitting it. It'll sound like a tuning fork. It goes whang, whang, and I mean like your axe will almost bounce off. One time you hit this and it'll just go fly out of the tree and then you lost everything you gained. And that's because it's such dense plastic. So that's one reason I don't really like this style wedge. They do work though, as long as you're not, you know. Another wedge I use is this is no cheapo and it serves its purpose for one reason. I buy these at Harbor Freight. I don't have very many, I have one or two of them. But you get in a situation where you have a tree sit back on you. And these are soft. You can see I can almost bend that with my hand. because they're cheap plastic. I mean, is what it is. But the reason I like them is if you get a tree that's really sat back on you and you start beating it in there, I feel like this plastic crushes down and it lets that wedge just get in there a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further, and it'll get you enough of a gap that you can start driving something else in there. And that's why I like these, but these are no good in cold weather. So if you get into like freezing temperatures or below, you start whooping on them, they'll shatter. They'll just break into pieces. They're, like I said, not a high quality, but they have their purpose and their place. It works a lot when I cut, like we get in pine patches and you're any kind of hard pine. So on our strip mine properties, we'll get all different types of yellow pine and red pine. They work good for that. I haven't done any of that in a while. That's why I haven't carried it. This one's been there, but like I said, I like these the most. You can really beat on them. They last. Another trick with wedges, they have styles out there. They'll call them like rifled wedges. So if you drive one in, you can put one on top of the other like this. You know, they got to be more the same size. It's usually used to because they're the same size. But you can put them on top of each other, you know what I mean? And drive them in together like this. One thing people notice when you're doing that, one's always going to want to fly out. What I'll do in that instance is if you got one wedge, usually you have one driven all the way in, so you're going to double up next to it. You'll have two stacked. But we'll put one in, I'll take a handful of sawdust, wood chips, throw it on there, put the next one on top of it, and then drive it. And what those wood chips do is keep it from flying out. But like I said, it's just a simple video. I like the Husky brand ones or the Wells brand because the density of the plastic works out nice. You can get most of these anywhere. Stalls, Bailey's. I mean, you can go online and type in felling wedge, and God, they're all over the place. But these are a little more expensive. They're worth the money though when you're cutting. You know, I always have one with me somewhere nearby because, you know, you really got to beat on something. These hold up nice. They're just heavy. You don't want to have a whole pouch full of these because it really drag you down. But that's just the video. Just wanted to do a quick explanation of the wedges if anybody ever wonders. Tim just asked what I like. That's what I like and why I like it. There's lots of other ones out there I haven't even ever tried yet. So someday we'll get around to trying different ones, but sometimes it's just if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Have a good one, everybody.